Sarah jolted awake the moment she heard the soft thud at the back door, the kind that didn't belong in a safe home at midnight. She slipped out of bed, heartbeat tripping over itself, wondering why Emma kept disappearing into the night and what she was hiding that she couldn't tell her own mother. How long had they been living two lives under one roof, and whose voice had Emma been whispering to during those strange late-night calls? Sarah crept down the hallway, the cold floor biting her feet as she reached the kitchen. The back door eased open, inches at a time, and Emma stepped in, hood pulled low, breathing hard, like she'd been running from something. Sarah's breath caught when she saw the faint, dark bruise on her daughter's wrist, and the strange symbol drawn in black ink along her palm. Emma froze when she noticed her mother watching. For a long second, neither of them spoke. Then Emma reached into her pocket and pulled out a small metal key, old, rusted, and shaking in her hand, just before dropping it onto the kitchen tile. Sarah stared at the key, lying on the floor as if it held the answer to every question she had been too afraid to ask. Emma didn't move, didn't speak, only breathed in these short bursts that made her seem smaller than she ever had before. "Emma, where were you?" Sarah asked, but her voice came out thin, almost brittle. Emma lifted her eyes, and for a moment Sarah saw the same little girl who used to cling to her hand. But then that look vanished, replaced by something older and heavier. "You wouldn't understand," Emma whispered, and those three words cut deeper than anger ever could. Sarah felt her throat tighten. "Try me," she said, but Emma shook her head and stepped back, as though distance would protect her. Sarah wanted to reach out, hold her, demand answers, anything, but something in Emma's face warned her that pushing too hard right now might make everything worse. The symbol on Emma's palm seemed to pulse in the low kitchen light, and Sarah couldn't ignore the fear curling inside her chest. Whatever secret Emma carried, it wasn't small, and it wasn't safe. Daniel appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes, completely unaware of the storm he had just stepped into. "What's going on?" he asked, seeing Sarah's trembling hands and Emma's tense stance. Sarah pointed toward the key on the floor, but before she could explain, Emma rushed forward and snatched it back up. "Emma!" Daniel said, startled by the sudden movement. Emma shoved the key into her pocket and backed away. "It's nothing," she said quickly, but her voice cracked in the middle. Daniel's expression shifted from confusion to growing concern. He glanced at Sarah, silently asking for clarity, but she only shook her head. "Where were you tonight?" he asked gently, stepping closer. Emma swallowed hard, her eyes darting toward the back door like she was planning her escape. "I said it's nothing," she repeated louder this time, a shaky edge cutting through her words. Sarah felt her heart pound as the distance between Emma and her parents widened with every passing second. Something dark had its claws in her daughter, and Sarah didn't know how to pull her back. Emma pushed past them and hurried down the hallway, footsteps sharp against the wood floor. Sarah followed, calling her name, but Emma slammed her bedroom door before either parent could catch up. Daniel placed a gentle hand on Sarah's arm, trying to steady her. "She's scared," he said softly, but Sarah shook her head. "Nah, this is more than fear," she whispered. Her mind kept replaying the look in Emma's eyes, equal parts guilt and terror. Daniel knocked on Emma's door, his voice calm but firm. "Emma, please open up." Silence. Then the faint scrape of something being moved across the floor, as if Emma were hiding something. Sarah felt a chill crawl up her spine. "She's shutting us out," she said. Daniel sighed, leaning his forehead against the door. "We'll talk in the morning," he said, but his voice lacked confidence. Sarah wasn't sure morning would bring anything except more lies. Behind the door, Emma's muffled breathing trembled like she was fighting back tears, or fear of something bigger than any of them understood. Sarah couldn't sleep. Instead, she sat at the kitchen table with her hands wrapped around a mug of tea she never drank. The house felt different now. Quieter, heavier, as though Emma's secret had seeped into every wall. Daniel returned after trying once more to talk to Emma, shaking his head when he saw Sarah waiting. "She won't say anything," he murmured. Sarah stared at the back door, remembering the rain-soaked figure stepping out of the darkness. "Something happened tonight," she whispered. Daniel sat beside her, rubbing his eyes. "We can't jump to conclusions." But Sarah had already jumped. Her heart had dragged her there hours ago. "She had a symbol drawn on her hand," Sarah said. "Like a mark." Daniel frowned, confused and tired. "Maybe it's nothing?" Sarah wished she believed him. As she stood to turn off the kitchen light, something caught her eye on the floor. A small black scrap of paper near the table leg. She picked it up and unfolded it slowly. Her breath froze. It was a torn piece of a map, with the same strange symbol Emma had drawn on her skin. Morning crept into the house with a pale, uneasy light. Sarah felt as if she had aged years overnight. She sat at the edge of Emma's door, listening to the silence inside. Daniel tried to reassure her again, but his voice lacked the steady warmth it usually carried. "We'll talk to her together," he said, but Sarah could see the doubt flickering behind his eyes. When Emma finally opened her door, she wouldn't look at either of them. Her hoodie was different, but her posture was the same, guarded, tense, like someone bracing for a blow. "We found something," Sarah said gently, holding out the torn piece of map. Emma froze. Her eyes widened for a split second before she masked it with indifference. "It's not mine," she muttered, but her trembling fingers betrayed her. Daniel stepped in. "Emma, we're worried. You're sneaking out at night. You're getting hurt." Emma's jaw tightened. "I said it's nothing." She brushed past them, but Sarah felt it. Emma wasn't just hiding something. She was afraid of something. Emma left the house in a hurry, barely glancing back as she walked to school. Sarah watched from the window, unable to shake the feeling that her daughter was slipping through her fingers. "We need to figure out what that symbol means," she said quietly. Daniel hesitated, but eventually nodded. "Maybe it's just something kids draw," he suggested, though even he didn't sound convinced. At work, Sarah found herself distracted, her thoughts circling back to the mark on Emma's palm and the map fragment. When she returned home early, she noticed something she hadn't seen before. Emma's backpack lying open on the couch. Papers spilled out. Mostly harmless school things. But one envelope tucked beneath the notebooks caught her eye. It was unmarked. Sarah pulled it out slowly, heart thudding. Inside were names she didn't recognize, written in Emma's handwriting. Some had addresses. Some had symbols next to them. And one name was circled twice. Sarah's stomach dropped. Whatever Emma was mixed up in, it was bigger than she imagined. Daniel tried to convince Sarah that they needed to talk to Emma before jumping to conclusions, but Sarah felt the ground shifting under her. She couldn't shake the list of names. "Why would she hide this?" she murmured. Daniel sighed. "Maybe it's part of a school project," but even as he said it, he shook his head. That evening, they waited anxiously for Emma to come home. When she finally arrived, she moved quietly, avoiding their eyes. "Emma," Daniel said softly. "We found something you need to explain." She stiffened instantly. Sarah held out the envelope. Emma's face drained of color. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "It was in your backpack," Sarah said gently. "Honey, what are these names?" Emma's silence was louder than any answer. She took a step back, then another, her eyes flickering toward the door as if she was ready to run. "I can't tell you," she said, voice cracking. "You're not supposed to know." Sarah's heart sank. Not supposed to know? Who was controlling her daughter? Emma suddenly shoved the envelope back toward Sarah, her hands shaking. "You shouldn't have looked," she said, voice trembling between anger and fear. "It's not what you think." Daniel stepped forward. "Then, help us understand." But Emma backed farther away until her shoulders hit the refrigerator. "It's complicated," she whispered. Sarah felt something inside her break. Emma, we're your parents. Whatever this is, we can help you. Emma shook her head fiercely. No. If you go, they'll come after you too. Sarah froze. Who? Emma's lips clamped shut. Her entire body stiffened as if she had said too much. Daniel exchanged a horrified glance with Sarah. Emma pushed past them again, heading toward her room, but this time Daniel blocked her path gently. Emma, we can't protect you if we don't know what's happening. Emma swallowed hard. You can't protect me, she whispered. No one can. And then she locked herself in her room again, leaving her parents more terrified than ever. That night, Sarah lay awake, staring at the ceiling, unable to stop hearing Emma's words. They'll come after you too. The idea of someone targeting her daughter poisoned every thought. Near midnight, Sarah finally got up and tiptoed down the hall. Daniel slept restlessly, turning in his sleep. Sarah stood outside Emma's door again, listening. No sound. She hesitated, then walked toward the living room. The envelope still sat on the table. She opened it again, desperate for anything she might have missed. One name stood out, the one circled twice. Lucas Rivera. She recognized it. Emma had mentioned him once, months ago. Sarah sat heavily on the couch, clutching the paper as dread curled inside her. If this boy was connected to Emma's secret life, she needed to know why. She didn't hear Daniel walk in until he gently touched her shoulder. You're not doing this alone, he said softly. Sarah nodded, though fear still tightened her chest. She knew one thing with absolute clarity now. Emma wasn't safe. And they were running out of time. Sarah couldn't sit still the next morning. The name Lucas Rivera pulsed in her mind like an alarm she couldn't silence. She waited outside the school, watching students stream in, some laughing, some half asleep. Then she saw him, Lucas, leaning against a brick pillar, hands in his pockets, scanning the crowds with unsettling focus. Emma spotted him too, but didn't approach. Instead, she hesitated, glancing nervously over her shoulder before disappearing into the building. Sarah felt her heart thud. Lucas watched Emma leave, his expression darkening for a moment before he followed. Sarah didn't know if she should confront him or call Daniel, but something inside urged her forward. She stepped out of her car and moved toward Lucas. "Excuse me," she called. He turned, eyes cold but curious. "You're Emma's mom," he said before she could speak. Sarah froze. His tone wasn't friendly. It was almost like a warning. "Where has she been going at night?" she asked. Lucas's jaw tightened. "You don't want to know," he replied. And then he walked inside, leaving her with more fear than answers. Sarah drove home, gripping the steering wheel so tightly, her knuckles ached. Lucas's warning replayed again and again. You don't want to know. But she did want to know. She needed. That afternoon, she returned to the school and waited until the halls were nearly empty. She spotted Emma slipping out a side door, moving fast, like she didn't want anyone to notice. Sarah followed from a distance, her pulse pounding. Emma crossed the field behind the school and headed toward a chain-link fence leading to an old, unused storage building. Sarah ducked behind a tree as Emma met Lucas there. He handed her something. A folded piece of paper. Sarah strained to hear. Catching fragments. Tonight. Careful. They're watching. Her stomach tightened. Who was watching? What were they planning? She took one step closer, but a loose branch snapped under her foot. Emma's head whipped around. "Mom," she called, voice sharp with fear. Sarah froze. Breath held. Lucas stepped in front of Emma protectively. "You shouldn't be here," he said. Emma's eyes widened with panic as she stepped toward her mother. "Mom, why are you here?" she whispered urgently, glancing around as if expecting someone else to appear. Sarah stepped out from behind the tree. "Because you won't tell me anything," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Lucas moved between them. "She's in danger if you get involved," he said sharply. Sarah glared at him. She is my daughter. I'm already involved. Emma grabbed Sarah's arm, her grip trembling. Mom, please. You have to trust me. Sarah felt her heart crack. Emma wasn't defiant now. She was terrified. Talk to me, Sarah pleaded, but Emma just shook her head. Lucas leaned in close to Emma, whispering something Sarah couldn't hear. Emma nodded, breathing shakily. We have to go, Lucas said. Now, Emma hesitated, eyes locking with Sarah's. For a brief second, Sarah saw everything. Fear, guilt, love. Then Emma pulled away and followed Lucas toward the back road. Sarah stood frozen, helpless as the two disappeared into the trees. Sarah ran home, breathless and shaking, and found Daniel pacing the living room. She's with that boy, Sarah said. She's scared, Daniel. Something is happening. Daniel grabbed her shoulders. Slow down! What did you see? Sarah told him everything. Emma meeting Lucas, the note, the urgency in their voices. Daniel listened, face growing more serious with each detail. We need help, he said finally. Real help. Sarah hesitated. The police. Daniel nodded. We can't pretend this is normal anymore. Sarah felt a surge of guilt. Going to the police felt like betraying Emma, but the image of her daughter whispering in fear made the choice feel unavoidable. Daniel called the station while Sarah held her breath. When he hung up, he said the words she didn't expect. They're sending someone who's already investigating a case involving minors. Her name is Detective Maya Chen. Sarah's stomach twisted. If the police were already involved, then Emma wasn't just hiding something dangerous. She was part of it. Detective Maya Chen arrived just after sunset. She stepped into the Lawson living room with calm authority, her presence quiet but commanding. Tell me everything, she said. And Sarah did. Every detail from the midnight return to Lucas's warnings behind the school. Maya listened intently, nodding slowly. This symbol you mentioned, she said, has appeared in an active investigation. It's connected to a group that's been recruiting teenagers. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. Recruiting them for what? Maya's expression hardened. We're still determining that. But your daughter's involvement puts her at risk. Daniel swallowed hard. What do we do? Maya folded her arms. We monitor her movements, and we try to figure out what she's mixed up in before it's too late. Sarah felt both relief and terror. Someone was finally helping, but the danger was suddenly more real. Maya turned toward the hallway. Where is Emma now? She asked. And in that instant, Sarah realized she didn't know. Detective Maya Chen asked to see Emma's room, and Sarah hesitated before pushing the door open. The air felt heavy, as though Emma's fear still lingered inside. Maya slipped on gloves and began scanning the room carefully. Sarah stood near the doorway, arms wrapped tight around herself. Daniel hovered beside her, silent and pale. Maya checked drawers, shelves, under the bed. Nothing out of the ordinary. But then she paused at Emma's desk. A small notebook lay tucked beneath a stack of sketch pads. Is this hers? Maya asked. Sarah nodded. Maya opened it slowly. The first pages looked harmless. Doodles, class notes. Then the drawings changed. Strange symbols. The same ones Sarah saw on Emma's palm appeared over and over. Beneath several of them were numbers and locations. Sarah's breath caught. She is tracking something, Maya murmured. Daniel swallowed hard. What does it mean? Maya's jaw tightened. It means Emma isn't just near the group we're investigating. She closed the notebook. She's already inside it. Sarah felt the ground tilt beneath her. Inside it? How? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Maya walked to the window, scanning the street outside. This group recruits quietly. They target teens who feel isolated or overlooked. They promise belonging, purpose. Sarah shook her head. Emma isn't like that. But even as she said it, she remembered the nights Emma spent alone, the slow distance growing between them. Daniel added. This doesn't look like recruitment. She looks involved. Maya nodded grimly. Some teens get pulled in deeper. They become messengers, lookouts. Sarah stared at the notebook again. Emma wouldn't join something dangerous. Maya turned to her gently. Maybe she didn't choose to. Maybe she was threatened. The thought hit Sarah like a blow. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, but it didn't steady her. Maya studied their faces. We need to know where she is right now. Sarah felt her pulse spike, because for the first time she realized Emma hadn't checked in since school ended. The doorbell rang sharply, startling all three. Daniel hurried downstairs while Sarah and Maya followed behind. Daniel opened the door and froze. Emma stood there, trembling, her hoodie soaked with sweat rather than rain. Her eyes darted past her parents, straight to Maya. "You're here," Emma whispered, sounding more resigned than surprised. Sarah rushed forward, but Emma backed away. "Don't. Please don't touch me," she said, voice cracking. Maya stepped between them gently. "Emma, we need to talk." Emma shook her head violently. "I didn't want you involved," she said to her parents. "You weren't supposed to know." Sarah felt her throat tight. "Honey, we're just trying to help." Emma's breathing quickened. "You can't. They know everything. They know I've been talking to Lucas. They know you followed me." Maya exchanged a sharp look with Daniel. "Who are they?" Emma looked up, tears burning in her eyes. "The people who marked me." Then she lifted her palm, the symbol drawn darker than before. Emma stepped inside, shutting the door quickly as though afraid something outside might follow her in. "They said if I talked, they'd come after you," Emma said, voice shaking. Sarah moved closer, ignoring Emma's warning this time, and wrapped her arms gently around her daughter. Emma didn't resist, but she didn't relax either. Maya stepped forward. "Emma, we need you to tell us everything. Who marked you? What do they want?" Emma wiped her eyes. "It started months ago. It wasn't supposed to be dangerous. We were just supposed to deliver messages, watch certain places, report things." Daniel nearly collapsed into a chair. "Emma, my God," Emma continued. "Then someone got hurt. And Lucas said it wasn't an accident. That's when we tried to leave." Maya nodded slowly. "But they didn't let you." Emma shook her head. "They threatened Lucas's family. And they told me? They told me I belong to them now." Sarah gasped as Emma finally broke down, sobbing into her shoulder. Maya knelt in front of Emma, her voice steady. "Emma, we can protect you, but we need to know what they're planning next." Emma wiped her face, staring at the symbol on her palm. "There's a meeting tonight," she whispered. Sarah's breath hitched. "Where?" Emma hesitated, then whispered the name of a street. "A rundown warehouse district." Daniel paled. Maya stood. "We're going," she said, "but Emma stays here with an officer." Emma shook her head violently. "No. They'll know if I'm not there. They'll hurt Lucas." Sarah grabbed her daughter's hands. "Emma, please, your safety matters more." "But," Emma pulled away, "not if he gets hurt because of me." Maya looked between them, weighing risk and necessity. "We can position units nearby," she said carefully. "But if Emma's absence raises suspicion, the whole operation could collapse." Sarah felt her heart crack. Everything was spiraling. Emma finally said, voice barely audible, "It'll go, but you have to promise you'll protect him." Maya nodded slowly. "We will." The house felt unbearably still as Emma gathered herself for what she had to confess. Sarah sat close beside her, trying to be strong, while Daniel stood behind them as though bracing for impact. Maya urged Emma gently, "Start from the beginning." Emma inhaled shakily. "It began after Sofia Alvarez went missing," she whispered. Sarah's eyes widened. She remembered that name from the local news. Everyone thought she just ran away, Emma continued. But she didn't. She was hurt. Badly. And nobody did anything. Lucas had been the one to tell her the truth, she explained. He had stumbled across messages and symbols connected to a group of adults meeting in secret places around town. So we followed them, Emma said. We thought we could help. We thought we were being brave. Her voice cracked, but we didn't understand what they really were. Daniel stepped closer. As though you tried to expose them. Emma nodded. By watching their drops, tracking meetings, keeping notes. That's what the map was. That's what the symbols were. Sarah whispered. You were investigating them? Emma looked down. We were in way too deep before we realized it. Emma took a shaky breath as Maya urged her to continue. After Sophia got hurt, Lucas didn't trust the police, she said. He thought the group had someone on the inside. Maya frowned, but didn't interrupt. Lucas said we needed proof. Emma continued. So we started collecting it. Times, locations, people coming and going. Her voice dropped. But then they noticed us. Sarah reached for her hand, but Emma pulled back gently. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to panic. I thought I could stop things before they got worse. Daniel's voice broke through softly. Emma, you're a child. You shouldn't have been anywhere near this. Emma's eyes glistened. Someone had to do something. Maya leaned forward. How did they mark you? When did that happen? Emma shivered. A week ago, someone followed me after a meeting. They grabbed my wrist and pressed the symbol on with ink that burns. They said it meant I belong to them now. Sarah gasped, covering her mouth. They threatened Lucas' family, Emma added. And then, mine. Emma wiped her eyes. Lucas tried to quit first, she whispered. He told them he was done. But they said you don't quit. You disappear. Sarah flinched at the words. Daniel leaned forward. Has he been hurt? Emma shook her head. Not yet. But they warned him. And me. She closed her eyes for a moment. 2 days ago, they made us follow someone. I didn't want to. Lucas didn't either. But they said if we refused, they'd call it betrayal. Maya's face hardened. Who were you following? Emma hesitated, then whispered, a man named Delaney. I don't know his first name. Maya exchanged a dark glance with Daniel. She recognized the name. Why him? Emma's voice cracked again. They said he stole something from them. Something important. Sarah grabbed Emma's hands. Honey, you should have told us. Emma looked up through tears. I didn't want you in danger. And I thought, maybe if Lucas and I exposed the group first, no one else would get hurt. Sarah felt tears burning her eyes. You shouldn't have carried this alone. Maya stepped closer, her expression serious but calm. Emma, you said you were trying to expose the group. How far did you get? Emma swallowed hard. We gathered photos, times, license plates, but we don't know what the numbers on the symbols mean. She hesitated. Lucas thinks they're coordinates for something coming, something big. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. Coming when? Emma looked at Maya with dread. Tonight. Daniel exhaled sharply. They're planning something tonight, Emma nodded. We overheard them say it was the final drop. They said if it worked, everything would change. Maya grabbed her notepad. Do you know where? Emma hesitated. The warehouse district. Same place as the meeting. Sarah felt the room spin. You can't go, she said, voice cracking. Emma looked at her with a heartbreakingly sad smile. If I don't go, they'll know I talked. And Lucas will be the first they go after. Sarah shook her head fiercely. We won't let anything happen to him. Or you. But deep inside, she wasn't sure she could keep that promise. Emma took a long breath, as if preparing herself for something irreversible. There's something else, she whispered. Every eye in the room turned to her. Her voice wavered. Lucas didn't just ask me to help. He asked me because Sophia was his cousin. Sarah's heart dropped. Maya's eyes widened slightly, connecting pieces of a puzzle. That's why he didn't trust anyone, Emma continued. He thought the police didn't care. He thought the group would get away with it unless we stepped in. Emma's hands shook. He wanted to bring them down from the inside. And I didn't want him to do it alone. Sarah pulled her daughter close, crying softly. Honey, you were trying to save someone, but you needed us. Emma's shoulders slumped. I know. But now is too late. They know we've been collecting proof. Maya straightened. Not too late. We use what you found. We set a trap. We take them down tonight. Emma looked afraid, but for the first time, she didn't look alone. Night fell heavy and cold, swallowing the town in a thick blue darkness as the Lawsons and Detective Chen prepared. Emma sat at the edge of the couch, hands trembling, but her eyes carried a determined fire. Maya spoke low and steady. Units will already be in the area. You two. She pointed to Sarah and Daniel. Stay behind them at all times. Sarah nodded, but her chest tightened with fear. Daniel placed a reassuring hand on her back, though his own hands were unsteady. Emma stood and pulled her hoodie over her head. They expect me there. If I'm late, they'll know something's wrong. Sarah moved toward her. You don't have to do this. Emma's jaw tightened. If I don't, they'll hurt Lucas. Maya stepped in. We'll extract both of them if we can. But Emma, you must stay visible, close enough for them to see you, far enough to stay alive. Emma swallowed hard. I understand. Sarah reached out and whispered, Please come back to me. Emma hugged her tightly, then let go like she was stepping into a storm she already accepted. They drove in silence toward the warehouse district, the police cars splitting off to take covert positions while Maya stayed with the Lawsons. Emma stared out the window, barely blinking as they approached the row of abandoned buildings. The meeting spot is behind the third warehouse, she murmured. Sarah squeezed her hand. We're right here. Emma didn't speak. Fear had hardened into resolve. As they rounded the corner, Emma spotted a small figure pacing near a broken street lamp. Lucas, she whispered. He looked panicked, checking the shadows every few seconds. Emma stepped out of the car before anyone could stop her. Lucas, she called quietly. He spun around, relief washing over his face, followed quickly by alarm when he saw Maya and Emma's parents behind her. You brought them, he hissed. They already know, Emma said, and they're here to help. Lucas shook his head anxiously. You don't understand. They moved up the timeline. They're coming now. Maya immediately lifted her radio. All units, be ready. The air shifted, thick with the danger approaching. More toward you. Before anyone could react, footsteps echoed in the distance. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Lucas tensed. That's them! Maya motioned for Sarah and Daniel to stay behind a stack of crates, while she positioned herself between the teens and the approaching figures. Emma's breath hitched, but she didn't move. Shadows stretched as several adults emerged from between two warehouses, their faces obscured by the dim light. One stepped forward. You're late, he growled at Emma. She forced herself to stand straighter. I'm here, aren't I? Lucas shifted uneasily beside her. The man's eyes flicked to Maya and the Lawsons. Who are they? Maya spoke firmly. No one you need to worry about. The man smirked. You brought company. Not very smart. Maya subtly pressed her radio. Units, move into position. But the man held up a small device, clicking it ominously. One wrong move, and the whole block hears an alarm. And trust me, you don't want that. Emma felt her stomach twist. They were trapped. Maya lifted one hand slowly, signaling the officers to hold. "Let the kids go," she said steadily. The man laughed. "You think you can negotiate? They belong to us." Sarah felt something inside her snap. She stepped out from behind the crates despite Daniel grabbing her arm. "She is my daughter," she shouted. Emma's eyes filled with terror. "Mom, don't!" The man tilted his head. "Ah," the nurse. His smile was ice. "You really should have stayed out of this." Emma moved towards Sarah instinctively, and instantly the man's hand darted to his pocket. "Stop!" Maya barked, stepping forward, but the man grabbed Emma's wrist, twisting it painfully as she cried out. Sarah lunged, Daniel behind her, but one of the other adults blocked their path. Lucas grabbed the man's arm. "Let her go," he yelled. The device in the man's hand slipped, clattering to the ground. Maya seized her chance. "Now!" she shouted into her radio. Sirens wailed, lights flared, chaos erupted. In the eruption of sirens, shouting, and flashing lights, everything became a blur. Officers swarmed the alley, grabbing the adults and forcing them to the ground. Maya pulled Emma away, shielding her with her own body. Lucas was dragged back by an officer until Maya shouted, "He's with them, freeing him!" Sarah reached Emma a moment later, collapsing into her arms. "Are you hurt?" she asked frantically. Emma shook her head, though her wrist throbbed. Daniel wrapped them both in his arms, trembling with relief. Lucas stumbled toward them, guilt flickering across his face. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Emma hugged him tightly. "You didn't do this," she said. "We both got caught in it." Maya approached, breathing hard. "We have the leaders in custody. The rest are being hunted down now." Sarah exhaled shakily, but Emma didn't relax. She stared at the blinking device still lying on the ground. "What if that wasn't the only alarm?" she whispered. For a moment, the victory felt fragile. Like the night still had one more secret waiting in the dark. The chaos slowly faded as officers secured the area, but the fear didn't leave Emma's chest. She kept staring at the blinking device until Maya finally crouched beside it. "It's a trigger for an alert system," she said. "Not explosive." Sarah exhaled shakily, and Daniel gently pulled her into his arms. Emma sank onto a crate, exhaustion collapsing over her like a heavy wave. Lucas lowered himself beside her. "It's over," he whispered, but Emma shook her head. "Not yet. They said there were more meetings, more people involved." Maya approached, her expression steady but stern. "We'll interrogate the ones we caught tonight. We'll follow every lead you gave us. What you two did, it mattered." Emma swallowed hard. It didn't feel brave. It felt stupid. Sarah knelt in front of her, cupping her cheek. "You were trying to protect someone. That's never stupid." Emma finally leaned into her mother's embrace, letting herself tremble freely for the first time. Lucas watched quietly, relief mixing with guilt as dawn crept closer. Hours later, after statements were taken and the adults were transported to holding cells, Maya walked over to the Lawson family with a tired but genuine smile. "You can all go home now," she said. "We'll keep officers near your street until we shut down the rest of the network." Sarah nodded gratefully, though the tremor in her hands betrayed her lingering fear. Emma leaned against Daniel as they walked back to the car. Lucas hovered behind them, unsure of where he fit in the moment. Sarah turned to him gently. "You're coming with us. You're not going home alone." Lucas blinked, taken aback. "Are you sure?" Emma answered for her mother. "You're family now," she whispered. Lucas's shoulders sagged with relief. When they reached the car, Emma hesitated before climbing in. The rusted key she'd dropped nights ago flashed through her mind. "It's really over?" she asked Maya one last time. The detective placed a hand on her shoulder. "Not completely," she said, "but the worst part is behind you." Emma nodded, finally allowing hope to settle in her chest. The house felt different when they returned. like the walls themselves could breathe again. Sarah guided Emma to the couch while Daniel made tea for everyone, hands still trembling slightly. Lucas hovered near the doorway, uncertain if he was intruding. Emma patted the seat beside her. "Sit," she said softly, and he obeyed. Sarah studied him quietly. "Lucas, thank you for trying to protect her," she said. He shook his head. "I dragged her into it." Emma frowned. "No, you didn't. I chose to help." Lucas lowered his gaze, guilt still clinging to him. Daniel returned with mugs and placed one in front of Lucas. "You're safe here," he said gently. Maya arrived a moment later, stopping by to check on them before heading back to the station. "The group is already breaking apart," she said, "and we have enough evidence to keep them from crawling out again." Emma exhaled slowly. "So it's finally over," Maya nodded. "And you helped make that happen." For the first time in weeks, Emma allowed herself to believe she might be free. Later that afternoon, Emma found herself alone in her room for the first time since everything happened. The silence felt less threatening now, softer somehow. She sat on her bed and opened the notebook that had once been filled with secrets and fear. One by one, she tore out the pages covered in symbols and coordinates. She didn't want them anymore. She didn't need them. When she reached the last page, she paused. There was a small drawing she had made months before. A sketch of her family laughing at the dinner table. Emma touched the edge of the paper, tears gathering in her eyes. She didn't realize how far she had drifted from them until she almost lost everything. Sarah knocked softly and peeked inside. "Can I come in?" Emma nodded, and Sarah sat beside her. "Whatever happens next, we face it together," Sarah whispered. Emma leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. "I'm sorry," she murmured. Sarah kissed her hair. "You came back to us. That's all that matters." That evening, the Lawson family gathered around the dinner table, something they hadn't done calmly in weeks. Daniel served pasta. Sarah poured drinks, and Emma watched them both with a fragile smile she hadn't used in so long. Lucas sat quietly across from her, his plate untouched, until Emma nudged him. "You're safe now," she said softly. He nodded, his shoulders slowly relaxing. Maya stopped by briefly, giving them updates. Charges filed, suspects cooperating, operations underway to dismantle the rest of the group. Before leaving, she placed a reassuring hand on Emma's shoulder. "This is your fresh start." When dinner ended, Emma stepped outside onto the porch, breathing in the cool night air. The world felt lighter, warmer, even peaceful. Sarah joined her, wrapping an arm around her. "You're home," she whispered. Emma leaned against her mother, looking up at the stars. For the first time, the darkness didn't scare her. She had faced it, and she wasn't alone anymore.